Is graveyard recursion in Commander a good thing? Let's find out. Hey guys, welcome back to Guys of Magic. It's me, it's Steven. Today I'm doing a deck tech based around Xu-Ifit. I'm calling it Bone-Voyage. I know, super cool name. Thought about it myself. And Hunter and Shane. Thank you both. I appreciate you. But yeah, so Xu-Ifit, Graveyard Recursion, really fun. I remember when this card was first spoiled. I wasn't that high on it. I thought it was kind of weird. Why would you bring back creatures with no abilities? And I kind of played around tinkering with a couple of different builds, and I think I found one I really like. So let's go ahead and talk about it today. But first up, let's talk about Xu-Ifit himself. It is 1 and 2 black for a 2/3 legendary creature human wizard. It says you can tap it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a skeleton in addition to its other types, and it has no abilities. Activate only as a sorcery. So essentially, we're trying to fill our graveyard with big creatures that can hurt our opponents, and there's a little bit of a blink theme in here too, so we can get those creatures back with the abilities and really start to hurt our opponents. So really excited for this deck. I broke it down, obviously, creatures, instant sorcery, so on and so forth. We're going to go ahead and jump into the creatures first, and I even broke it down into subcategories from there because I'm just that great. So first up, we're going to go and talk about a little bit of a sack package in here because we're in mono black. We want our opponents to be sacking things just like us. So first up, a Cursed Marauder, 1 and a black for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. We also have Demon's Disciple, 2 and a black for a 3/1. Same thing, except this time they can sacrifice a planeswalker or a creature. Merciless Executioner, 2 and a black for a 3/1. When it enters, each player sacrifices a creature. And Plaguecrafter, 2 and a black for a 3/2. This one says, same thing as the Demon's Disciple, people can either sacrifice a creature or planeswalker, and if they can't, they have to discard a card. Probably won't really see that last one that often. Yeah, so these 4 creatures, pretty standard to see in most mono black decks that care about sacrificing things. Really cool thing about this deck is even if we have a huge creature on our side that has no abilities that we brought back with Xu-Ifit, we can just go ahead and sacrifice it, restart that whole process, especially after it's already attacked. So that way we can have a blocker on the next turn. I really do love these creatures. I think they're going to be super, super strong in this deck. But next up, I do want to talk about some fun little additions that we put in here creature-wise to help us build up the board state a little bit. So these are kind of like utility creatures to a certain extent. So obviously we're playing with skeletons with Xu-Ifit, putting skeletons on that creature type. So Skeleton Crew is here. It is 3 and a black for a 3/3 creature skeleton pirate. It says each other creature you control that's a skeleton or pirate gets a +1/+1, and then whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token. You can also pay 5 and a black and return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Obviously, Xu-Ifit is having stuff in our graveyard. Enter the battlefield. Hey, guess what? That's a 2/2 black skeleton creature token. So essentially, we're building up a little bit of a board state. It's almost like you're playing Field of the Dead. That's a little bit more expensive. We also have Void Beckoner. This is 6 and 2 black, but it's an 8/8 with Death Touch. It has a really fun cycling ability, so 2 and a black, so you can discard it, draw a card, so it kind of helps us feed the graveyard with this card itself. And then whenever you cycle it, you put a Death Touch counter on target creature you control. I love this card. So with Xu-Ifit, it's a vanilla 8/8, but the really cool thing is you can throw it into the graveyard. By cycling it, you get to draw a card at instant speed. And then if you have Xu-Ifit on the field and it's able to be tapped, you can then just basically bring it back to the battlefield as an 8/8 vanilla creature and give something else Death Touch in the process. The options are endless here. Void Beckoner, really good card. All right, let's move on to some more utility creatures. So we have Death Baron, 1 and 2 black for a 2/2 creature zombie wizard. Skeletons you control and other zombies you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. Obviously, with Xu-Ifit making us these creatures that are going to be insanely large and being skeletons, putting Death Touch on them is just an added benefit that you cannot ignore. Especially this coming down at 3 mana, super easy, comes down very early. We also have Bog Witch. This is 2 and a black. You can pay a black, tap it, discard a card from your hand, add 3 black mana to your mana pool. Obviously, we want to feed our graveyard, and if I can get mana out of it as well, fantastic. Disciple Bolus, 3 and a black, a 2/1 creature human wizard. And whenever this creature enters, sacrifice another creature you control. You gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. We are going to be putting a lot of big things on our side of the field. So if I can gain, I don't know, 12 life, draw 12 cards, I think that's pretty good. I do have 3 more utility style creatures. One that I really love with all my heart in this deck. This is Mikaeus the Unhallowed. This is 3 and 3 black for a 5/5 legendary creature zombie cleric. It has Intimidate. And then whenever a human deals damage to you, destroy it, which may come into effect sometimes, but the other part is what we like the most. So other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Undying. You don't know what Undying is. It says whenever a creature with Undying dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So this card is fantastic in our deck. If our opponents want to destroy our huge 10/10 on the board, cool. Guess what? It's going to come back. It's not going to be a skeleton anymore, so a little unfortunate, but it's going to be the regular card. It won't be that vanilla-ish creature. So we do have some like cool Eldrazi in here with Annihilator, or we do have some really cool cards with other abilities. Mikaeus in this deck is insane. Moving on to another card in this deck that goes really well with it is Sir Conrad the Grim, 3 and 2 black for a 5/4 legendary creature human knight. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can also pay 1 and a black. Each player mills a card. Obviously, we're putting things in our graveyard, things are leaving our graveyard, and we want to help mill ourselves too. And if we can mill our opponents along the process, because you know me, I'm a mill player. There's a little bit of a sub-mill theme, and we'll get to that a little later. So Sir Conrad, really good. And of course, if we want to find something in particular, I love my tutor effect. So Violent Tumor is here. This is 2 and 2 black for a 2/2 creature zombie warlock. It has Death Touch. And then whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard. Is there something you need in that specific moment? Go ahead and grab it with Violent Tumor. All right, let's move on to some other cards that are going to help us fill our graveyard and also help us along the process. So we have Ghoul Caller Gisa, 3 and 2 black for a 3/4 legendary creature human wizard. You can pay a black, tap it, sacrifice another creature, create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Like I said earlier, we have so many huge creatures that it's not going to be uncommon to put 12 2/2s on the field. So Ghoul Caller Gisa in this deck is great. Moving on to Illuminator Sorceress. This is 2 and a black for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature Necron. It has Secrets of the Soul. You can tap it, sacrifice another creature, add an amount of black mana equal to the sacrifice creature's mana value. Again, big creatures make big mana. Pretty simple. We also have Rotting Regisaur in this deck. This is 2 and a black for a 7/6, and this says at the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. Even if we're paying this for its normal mana cost instead of trying to put this in the graveyard, this is helping us fill our graveyard. And that's pretty much the name of the game in this deck, is trying to put anything you can in your graveyard so that way Xu-Ifit can go ahead and bring it back and just destroy your opponents with it. Now I know what you're thinking, where are the big creatures you were talking about, right? So let's go ahead and get into those. These next 10 creatures are basically going to be the cards that we want to recur constantly, flicker possibly, sacrifice for mana, or make an army of 2/2s. So we'll get right into it. So Artisan of Kozilek, this is a 9 mana, 10/9. And then whenever you cast it, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has Annihilator too. I understand that sometimes you get these Eldrazi that have cast triggers, and it does suck to not get that. But at the end of the day, if I get to bring a 10/9 back, I'm not mad. I'm not gonna lie to you. Also, Annihilator 2, if we get to bring this back onto the battlefield with its regular text instead of it being vanilla, it's just gonna start hurting people, and it's gonna do it well. And of course, you can't have a game of Magic without a Blightsteel, right? So Blightsteel Colossus, 12 mana for an 11/11. It has Trample, Infect, and then it has Indestructible as well. And then if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Blightsteel Colossus and shuffle it back into its owner's library. I love this, because if it goes to our graveyard from being sacked or something like that, we can just throw it right back into the library. We can draw it on a later turn, drop it for its normal 12 cost. And, hopefully the game doesn't go that long. Moving on to Breaker of Armies. This is an 8 mana, 10/8. It says all creatures able to block Breaker of Armies do so. So here's the thing, obviously, if this is just brought back with Xu-Ifit, even if you bring back any of the other two we just talked about, you have a 10 power, 11 power, or a 10 power creature that your opponents are going to have a tough time dealing with. Moving on to Colossus of Akros. This is an 8 mana, 10/10. It's got Defender, Indestructible, and then you can pay 10 to give it Monstrosity 10. If this creature isn't monstrous, put 10 +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes monstrous. And as long as it does have monstrous, it has Trample and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. We also have Death Shadow. Normally, not a good card in Commander. Like, an awful card. But with Xu-Ifit, Probably one of the best cards in Commander, I'll be honest with you. So Death Shadow is a 13/13 for 1 black mana. It says Death Shadow gets -X, where X is your life total. So normally you play this on turn 1, it immediately dies, which is never fun. But with Xu-Ifit, it's a 13/13, and you can start swinging on your opponents. I think that's pretty good. We also have It That Betrays for 12 mana. It's an 11/11 with Annihilator 2. And it also says whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. Again, might not get that ability, but at the end of the day, it's an 11/11. Are you going to be mad? I'm not going to be mad. Phyrexian Soul Gorger is here as well. This is a 3 mana 8/8. It has a commutative upkeep of sacrifice a creature. Not really that good. But an 8/8 that you tap Xu-Ifit to get for free? You take that deal? I'll take that deal. Ulamog's Dreadsire, 10 mana for a 10/10. It's a vigilant creature. It's got ward, sacrifice a permanent with mana value 1 or greater, and then you can tap it, create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Pretty good, not gonna lie. If we blink this, or if we do another effect, which we'll kind of get into when we get into the instance department, there are ways in our deck that I kind of built around to essentially, when something dies, it comes back to the battlefield, and it'll have its regular text. So, a little spoiler alert. Don't jump across. Stay here with me, all right? We got Valgavoth Terror Eater up next. This is 6 and 3 black for a 9/9. It's got flying, lifelink, ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents, which is just mean, if I'm honest with you. It also says if a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than its mana cost. So again, these are just huge creatures. Essentially, we might just be playing with vanilla creatures most of the game, but they're still huge. And all we have to do is tap our commander. I love it. And the last creature is the big, the bad, the Void Winnower. This is 9 mana for an 11/9. Your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost. 0 is even. Your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost. So again, I love this deck. Creatures were fantastic, I think, and obviously you can play around with different kind of effects if you want to. I think the really cool thing about this deck is just kind of looking at the way it's built. We do have creatures that help us get the big CMC spells out, which is going to be really helpful. So even if we don't want to put them into the graveyard, we're going to probably get them onto the battlefield really easy. So I don't know, pretty cool. All right, but that was the creatures. Let's move on to the sorceries. There are 13, which is a little sorcery heavy, I will not lie. But in my honest opinion, I feel like you kind of need these sorceries in this deck, at least the way I built it. So first 3, we're going to talk about a little bit of graveyard stuff. So we have Unmarked Grave for 1 and a black. Search your library for a non-legendary card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. Just grab whatever you need. You want a 10/10, you want a 12/12, put it there. Get it out with Xu-Ifit. And of course, you can't have Unmarked Grave if you don't have Bury It Alive. This is 2 and a black. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard. Shuffle your library afterwards. Buried Alive, amazing card if you're doing any kind of graveyard shenanigans. I highly recommend it. Can't go wrong. And of course, Living Death is here, 3 and 2 black. Each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creature he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. There's a lot you can do with this card in this deck. It is honestly pretty crazy. The way you can build Xu-Ifit is you can put a lot of bad cards in your deck that have bad ETBs and just recur them that are huge. I wanted to be able to put Living Death into this deck, so I kind of kept it with good creatures. So we can put all those great creatures back into the deck. And there's one artifact that I threw in here that I'm super excited to talk about that will go pretty great with Living Death. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But moving on to some more graveyard shenanigans, we have Dread Return. This is 2 and 2 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also says flashback, sacrifice 3 creatures. Obviously, we're trying to do that anyways in this deck by sacking things, so let's flash it back. Reanimate, Commander All-Star, 1 black mana. Put target creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. And the fun thing, doesn't even have to be your own creature. Although we did put some fun stuff in our deck, our opponents are probably playing with some spicy stuff, so go ahead and bring back their stuff too. Victimize is here, 2 and a black. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. 2 for 1. That's my favorite kind of special. All right, let's move on to some other sorceries in this deck. These are going to kind of help us clear the board or destroy certain things. So we have Blasphemous Edict. This is 3 and 2 black. You may pay just 1 black rather than pay the spell's mana cost if there are 13 or more creatures on the battlefield. Each player sacrifices 13 creatures of their choice. I love Blasphemous Edict. It kind of gets around like Heroic Intervention effects and stuff like that are indestructible. So you can try and do Heroic Intervention shenanigans, but you're going to be sacrificing 13 creatures regardless. So do your best. We also have Feed the Swarm. This is 1 and a black. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's mana value. Good flexibility, whether it's a creature or an enchantment. Most of the time, there's a really good enchantment. I don't know, like a Smothering Tithe on somebody's field that you really want to get rid of because you're tired of them getting all these treasures. Could you tell I was hurt by that card? Yes, I was. Toxic Deluge is here as well. 2 and a black. As additional cost to cast the spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. Really good board wipe, and again, gets around these kind of like Heroic Intervention effects by giving -X to that toughness. So that way you can kind of, wipe the board. Also, Toxic Deluge, really cool thing. Obviously, our creatures are huge. So we can probably get around wiping our board and just wipe our opponent's board. I like that. Moving into some card draw sorcery effects, we have Sign in Blood for 2 black. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. We also have Night's Whisper for 1 and a black. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. And Morbid Curiosity, which is a really fun card in this deck. It is 1 and 2 black. As additional cost to cast Morbid Curiosity, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Draw cards equal to the converted mana cost of the sacrifice permanent. So some really fun effects. Like I said, when we get into the instant department with stuff like this, it's going to be a really good time, but obviously drawing cards is fantastic. And then Morbid Curiosity, we have some big CMC creatures that we can basically sacrifice, and being able to draw a ton of cards is going to be awesome. Because like we say here at Guys of Magic, card draw wins games. It surely does. And moving on to the last sorcery, Breach the Multiverse. This is probably my favorite card that came out of March of the Machines. 5 and 2 black. Each player mills 10 cards. You can't tell why I like it. It has the word mill in it. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So really great. So with a pot of 4, everyone's milling 10, and you're getting basically 4 permanents out of it. I will say I have never really seen this card miss. Out of 40 cards, you're going to get 4 good ones. I can almost assure you that. All right, well, let's move on to the instants now. So some really fun little ramp stuff here. So we have Dark Ritual for 1 black. Add 3 black mana to your mana pool. Obviously, we're mono black, so we're not ramping incredibly hard. The only artifacts I threw in here for ramp was kind of like, Soul Ring and stuff like that. So kind of wanted to make sure we can get certain things out if we needed to. And then the best card to put stuff in your graveyard anywhere, Entomb. 1 black mana, search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. 1 mana, instant speed, do it on your opponent's end step, Xu-Ifit's on the field, and just start wreaking havoc on your opponents. Can't go wrong. Let's move on to some instants that are going to disrupt the board state a little bit. We have Bitter Triumph. This is 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card or pay 3 life, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Obviously, like we've kind of talked about, we're trying to discard cards into our graveyard, kind of fuel that fire and try to like just really help us progress. So this is going to be really great. We also have Defile. 1 black mana, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each swamp you control. There are 27 basic swamps in this deck, and I threw in a little spicy card to make everything a swamp. If you can guess that, throw it in the comments. What card am I talking about? But Defile is going to kill pretty much anything we want it to. So that's good. We also have Withering Torment, 2 and a black, destroy target creature or enchantment. You lose 2 life. Again, I love the flexibility. 3 mana for a kill spell is not generally my sweet spot. I really like the 1 mana spells or 2 mana at most. But again, the flexibility of the creature or a enchantment is pretty helpful. All right, well, let's move on to some more ramp, question mark. Deadly Dispute, 1 and a black. Additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. So I get to sack a creature, recur it with Xu-Ifit. I get to draw 2 cards and make a treasure token that's not tapped. Again, I'm not seeing the bad on this card. I'm kind of grinning like the person in the photo, believe it or not. It's kind of funny. We have Sacrifice for 1 and a black. Sacrifice 1 of your creatures to add to your mana pool a number of black mana equal to that creature's casting cost. Kind of like we've been talking about, we have a bunch of high CMC spells, so we're going to make a bunch of mana with Sacrifice. Really good card in this deck. And then kind of like Deadly Dispute, we have Village Rites, 1 black mana. Additional cost to cast is sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Card draw wins games, can't say it enough. Just do it. Just draw cards. Just do it. Just build your deck around it. All right, let's move on to these last 3 instants now. So these are kind of like some really fun combat tricks. You know me, I love my combat stuff. So we have 3 spells that are going to bring back our vanilla creatures and make them into the glorious creatures they were meant to be. So Undying Malice, 1 black mana. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under Tona's control with a +1/+1 counter. Malakir Rebirth, 1 black mana. Choose target creature, you lose 2 life. Until end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under Tona's control. And we also have Feign Death, 1 black mana. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under Tona's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So essentially, at least in our deck, we can cast this on a creature that's about to die because our opponents want to kill it because they've been getting smacked by an 11/11 all game. So essentially, boom, play one of these. It comes back as an 11/11, but now it has all those great abilities. So just be careful what you're trying to destroy. Just be careful. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our artifacts now. So helping us with ramp, we have Arcane Signet, Jet Medallion, and Soul Ring. Arcane Signet coming down for 2, tapping for a black mana because obviously we're in a mono black deck. Jet Medallion coming down at 2 mana. Black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Obviously, we do have a bunch of like colorless spells, but we do also have a bunch of black spells that we can cast that are a little bit more expensive. So this will definitely help us along the process. And of course, Soul Ring, you kind of just got to throw it in the deck at this point, right? You're playing Commander if you don't have a Soul Ring? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's move on to these next 3 cards, helping us really progress the board state a little bit. Altar of Dementia. 2 mana. Sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. So one fun thing I got to do while goldfishing, obviously, Altar of Dementia is on the field. You have all your big creatures. You sacrifice them to Altar of Dementia. Somebody's milling a bunch of cards, and then you just play Living Death, and you kind of rinse and repeat. So I don't know. It's kind of like a little fun, not combo because you're not like really winning on the spot, but somebody's going to have a bad day. And that's kind of what I imagine mono black being, is people having a bad day. We also have Lightning Greaves coming down at 2. People are going to want to kill Xu-Ifit every single chance they can get after they play it at least once. So 2 mana. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. It has equipped 0. So love Lightning Greaves. I think they should go in every deck. Swap out the Swiftfoot boots. Just throw this in there. Moving on to Palantir of Ornthanc. This is 3 mana for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, put an influence counter on this card and scry 2. Then target opponent may have you draw a card. If that player doesn't, you mill X cards, where X is the number of influence counters on this card. And that player loses life equal to the total mana value of those cards. You're probably going to get to mill a couple, but once somebody loses 12 life, they're probably never going to let you mill again. So this card's really fun in this deck, coming down at 3 mana, gets you fill your graveyard a little bit, hopefully, and then also draw cards. This is a win-win. There's no bad here. So automatic include for me. All right, let's move on to these last 3 artifacts. So Conjurer's Closet, 5 mana. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. We're in mono black, so blink effects are far and few in between. So this is honestly our best option, but we definitely want to try and get this card out and just start blinking all the things that Xu-Ifit is bringing back, so our opponents can destroy them, so we can bring them back, so we can blink them, and just restart the process. This is a card that definitely has to be dealt with in the deck by your opponents, because if they don't, you're just going to continue to snowball, and it's not going to be fun for them. Next up, we have the Darkness Crystal for 2 and 2 black. It says black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead, and you gain 2 life. That's great. You also pay 4 and 2 black, tap it, put target creature card exile with the Darkness Crystal onto the battlefield tapped under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. Really good card. Shutting down your opponent's graveyard by exiling their creatures. You're getting life out of it. And then guess what? Whatever your opponent's creatures dies, you can bring it back. That's cool. And the last artifact we have here is going to be Whip of Erebos. This is 2 and 2 black. Creatures you control have lifelink. I feel like you're going to need lifelink with this deck because your opponents are probably going to be swinging at you a lot. But they also might not because you have huge blockers with this deck. But you can also pay 2 and 2 black, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, it gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. If it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So this is kind of like, in my mind, a last resort card. I almost kind of threw this in just for the lifelink aspect of it. But if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, we're at the end game, we really need to start recurring some things and kind of stabilizing. This is going to help us out dramatically. All right, let's move on to my favorite type of card, enchantments. I cannot speak highly enough about enchantments. I think they are just game breaking in my opinion because they just stick around and do a bunch of stuff and they're a little hard to remove, to be honest with you. We'll talk about one of my favorite ones that came a little bit more popular when Aether Drift came out. Tortured Existence, 1 black mana. This says for 1 black, you can choose and discard a creature card, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. You want to bring back one of those sacrifice effects? Okay, you can do that. Do you want to go ahead and put one of those 12/12s in your graveyard and then recur it with Xu-Ifit? Just do it. I mean, honestly, just do it. But what can you do with this card as well is Tival's Judgment. This is 2 and a black, and it says whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, create a treasure token, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Make some fodder, draw a card, make some mana so that way you can go ahead and just have more fun on your next turn or on that same turn. Tival's Judgment in this deck is just insanely great and should be an automatic include. We also have Ripples of Undeath. This is 1 and a black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. Mill 3 cards. Fill your graveyard. Have a good time. If you don't want to bring something back with Xu-Ifit, or you feel like you might need something that you need as an actual creature instead of a skeleton with no abilities, boom. Good to go. Let's move on to some more fun enchantments. We have Animate Dead for 1 and a black. Enchant creature card in a graveyard. It says whenever Animate Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return enchanted creature to the battlefield under your control and attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. Enchanted creature gets -1, -0. That is an insane amount of text on this card for it to say, pick a card, put it on your side of the field with this under it, and when Animate Dead leaves, it goes away. That is short form for that paragraph of text. We also have Kaya's Ghost form. It's 1 black mana, enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When an enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. You want to path my commander? Or you want to path anything on my board or swords it? Sure. I don't care. Kaya's Ghost form's on it. It doesn't matter to me. We also have Corpses of the Lost. This is 2 and a black. It says skeletons you control get +1/+0 and have haste, which is fantastic. It also says when Corpses of the Lost enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 black zombie pirate creature token. And at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, you may pay 1 life. If you do, return Corpses of the Lost to its owner's hand. So kind of bad in a weird way, right? Because you're essentially having to continue to pay the 3 mana. But if Xu-Ifit's on the field and you're able to bring a 10/10 right back onto the field and it gains haste, insane. This card's great. I love it. That is it for the enchantments. Let's move on to the last little segment here, our lands. I know some people don't really care about lands, but we had some fun ones, so let's talk about them, right? First set of 3 we're going to be talking about, we have Bojuka Bog. Enters tapped, which I know is not fun for everybody, but when it does enter, exile target player's graveyard. Don't choose yourself. Kind of have to say it, but it does tap, add a black. We also have Rogue's Passage. This taps for a colorless. You can pay 4 and tap it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. It's going to kind of be nice when we have some huge creatures on the board. And then we also have 27 basic swamps in this deck. But you didn't come here for the basic swamps. You came here for the spicy cards. So let's move on to some other fun lands we added. Of course, we had to add Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Urborg says each land is a swamp in addition to its other types. And then Cabal Coffer says you can pay 2, tap it, add a black mana for each swamp you control. Usually these 2 cards go very well together, and you get to make a ton of mana with them, which is fantastic. But if you have the same issue that I do, where you have one but not the other and you're trying to find it, here's Urza's Cave. Taps for a colorless, you can pay 3, tap it, sack it, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. just find whatever you need. I mean, honestly, it's a really good card. And the last 3 lands are also fun lands. We have Takenuma Abandoned Mire. You can tap it to add a black, or you can channel it. So 3 and a black, you can discard it, and you mill 3 cards. Then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. This ability also costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So hopefully it'll always cost at least 3, max 4, but really good card. We also have Susur Secundi Void Altar. This is the land planet from Edge of Eternities. Could have not throw it in here, you know what I mean? Always enters tapped. Not great, but it does tap for a black and it has station. So once it gets to those 12 charge counters, you can pay 1 and a black, tap it, pay 2 life, sacrifice a creature. But after all those hoops, you get to draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery. If you don't have that 1 enchantment that gives haste to your stuff or lightning greaves on the field, this is a great card because these huge creatures can station this card very quickly. So if you're at a point where you don't really need any blockers, you can maybe sacrifice a few life because life is a resource. Go ahead and use this card to help draw some cards. Phyrexian Tower taps for a colorless, or you can tap it, sack a creature, and add 2 black. So again, just more flexibility. But that's going to do it. That was my deck tech on Xu-Ifit. How do you think I did? I think I did pretty well. Obviously, there are tons of ways you can build this. This card is a very fun commander to play with. I highly recommend you kind of goldfish it, see what you think, and play around with it. Obviously, you can put more into the budget. You can take a little bit out of the budget. But for our deck techs, we kind of hover around anywhere between $300 and $400. This deck, at the time of recording, sitting around $358 with everything that was added to it. But it's really fun. I love Graveyard Recursion. I love drawing cards. And I just love making my opponents feel like whatever they play might die. And that's really fun. So, but again, if you like what I did, hit the comments down below. Let me know. What cards would you have added? What cards do you think I shouldn't have added? Also, while you're down there, give the video a like. Make sure you're subscribed so you stay up to date with all the fun content we're putting out. We have some more deck techs. We're right down the way from Avatar spoilers, which is insane to think about. Don't forget to check us out on all our other socials at Guys That Magic for everything. And on the screen right now are all of our beautiful patrons. Thank you guys so much for all the extra support. We greatly appreciate it. But a special shout out to our indestructible tier.
Aaron Hill, Daryl Tripp, Demarion Turner, Doc Jerome, Yasminder Pablo, Jimmy Ward, Jay Pizzle, Kelvor, Kevo, Samuel Abbott, Stingraiser1144, Thrifty PSGR, and William Colombo. You guys are awesome. Appreciate every single one of you.
Bye.